its mandate under the Clean Energy DC Omnibus Act of 2018 to ensure the Commission's decisions are consistent with DC's climate commitments, which call for carbon neutrality by 2045 and phasing out fossil fuel use by 2045 as well. Washington Gas is seeking a rate increase of more than 20% for what the gas utility falsely calls climate action. The gas utility's climate action recovery tariff would charge DC residents millions of dollars to mix a small amount of so-called renewable gas from sources like animal manure from factory farms into Washington Gas's fracked gas supply. Methane gas from sources like animal manure is in limited supply and is extremely expensive. It's not a realistic solution to climate change. It's a greenwashing attempt to deceive the Commission into approving false solutions to climate change. Even if the Commission bought into the false solution of so-called renewable gas, that would do nothing to address the public health threat of burning methane gas in our homes, which medical research has linked to increased hospital admissions, respiratory symptoms, asthma attacks, and a 42% increased likelihood of developing childhood asthma. We all know that the climate's worst polluters, companies like ExxonMobil and Chevron, have lied to the public for decades about the health and climate threats of their product. They are not alone among dirty energy interests. The gas industry has been gaslighting us for decades, claiming that burning dirty fuels in our homes is actually clean. The question before the Commission is whether you take DC's climate commitments and public health seriously, or whether you prioritize utility profits over requirements in the law to transition off fossil fuels. It's bad enough that Washington Gas is asking the Commission to increase costs on DC residents to pay for false solutions to climate change, but it gets even worse. Washington Gas actually wants DC residents to pay Washington Gas more money for selling less gas. The utility calls this a climate progress adjustment and asks the three members of this commission to make DC less affordable for residents, businesses, and families in order to protect the profits of the Calgary-based parent company of Washington Gas, AltaGas. If this commission is serious about meeting DC's climate commitments and protecting DC ratepayers from unnecessary and imprudent costs, you will reject the falsely named climate progress adjustment. The proposed increase is just a down payment on the gas utility's plan to charge DC residents billions of dollars for continued reliance on dirty fuels. Washington Gas has asked the Commission to ignore DC's climate laws and instead extract nearly $672 million from DC residents for the next phase of Project Pipes. It's part of the larger Washington Gas plan to hit DC residents with the $4.5 billion cost of maintaining its dirty energy infrastructure. With these enormous costs looming, DC residents should have a central voice in determining the district's energy future. We believe the Commission needs to do a better job of educating the public about the costs the public may be forced to pay, and we believe the Commission needs to do a better job of public engagement. These hearings were not widely publicized. The notice included a deadline to sign up, but did not note that walk-in testimony would be allowed, which we only learned about after a DC resident emailed the Commission asking if she could testify despite having missed the deadline and was told she could. We do, though, appreciate the opportunity to comment on this case, and we hope to see robust efforts to inform the public about future hearings and other dockets involving Washington Gas, like the upcoming Project Pipes docket. Formal case 1167, that's where they're seeking $672 million, part of what DOEE says is their larger $4.5 billion plan, just to keep us on gas, not to make any kind of, not to do anything with manure gas or any of this other stuff. If this commission is considering allowing Washington Gas to charge DC residents billions of dollars to maintain its dirty energy infrastructure, you need to ensure that the public understands what you're doing. In summary, we ask that you reject the billions of dollars in wasteful spending on fossil fuel infrastructure, that you reject the false solutions to climate change included in the CART, and that you reject the CPA proposal to charge DC residents more money for using less gas. It's time for proactive climate leadership from the Public Service Commission. Thank you.
Matthew Bevins.
Thank you.
Barbara Briggs.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners Beverly, Thompson, and Trabue. I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Barbara Briggs. I'm a resident of Ward 3 and a member of Friends Meeting of Washington. Quakers have historically concerned ourselves with matters of equity, social, and economic justice. And as an extension of that commitment, members of our meeting have become increasingly concerned with the continued burning of gas for its impact on climate, the ecosystems that sustain us, and also its impact on human health, and especially the health of DC's children and low-income communities. I am here tonight to express my strong opposition to the rate increase that Washington Gas is requesting, and to urge that the Public Service Commission, the Public Service Commission to represent the interests of DC residents by obligating Washington Gas to change its business to one that does not rely on burning fossil fuels or to face the consequences, which are business failure. DC residents are increasingly aware that our gas infrastructure is leaking methane, a powerful climate-disrupting greenhouse gas. Over the last years, Friends Meeting of Washington members and others in the faith community have been conducting a citizen science investigation looking at those gas leaks. We have found hundreds of leaks across all 8 DC wards, among them leaks that were above the lower explosive limit of 50,000 parts per million, in other words, constituting an immediate hazard. There is no question that these very dangerous leaks should be investigated and patched. But we all know that in order for DC to do its part in avoiding climate disruption more catastrophic than that we already face, we have to stop burning gas and other fossil fuels. So we must now minimize the spending on our gas infrastructure and instead direct all available resources to build new electric and clean energy-based infrastructure. This year, we've begun a new citizen science investigation of the health-harming pollutants emitted by gas stoves. When gas is burned, it produces nitrogen dioxide and fine particulates, both of which are damaging to the lungs. Nitrogen dioxide is a pulmonary irritant which contributes to asthma, COPD, and a host of other health conditions. A recent study tracked 13% of childhood asthma directly to gas stoves, and another large meta-study found that a child who lives in a home with a gas stove has a 42% greater likelihood of asthma. So as you study the cost of DC's energy and of transition to non-combustion energy sources for our homes and buildings, I hope that the Public Service Commission will weigh the cost of COPD and of childhood asthma. Asthma medication alone costs $3,000 a year on average, and that's not even taking into consideration the cost of lost school time and of early development. So again, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to testify. I want to leave you with this one more thing, and then I see I'm at time. We don't owe Washington Gas a living. It's up to Washington Gas to change and to figure out how to serve our community as our understanding, needs, and options change. It's up to the Public Service Commission to deliver this message and to represent DC residents' interests, which at this juncture are minimizing investment in gas infrastructure that needs to be replaced and is playing a very important role in speeding our transition to cleaner, far healthier, non-combustion energy sources with Washington Gas's involvement or without it. Thank you.
Matthias Paulston.
Hi, my name is Matthias Paulston. I'm a resident of Ward 4. I'm going to make 3 points. First, the Commission should reject the so-called climate progress adjustment because it is inconsistent with the district climate's goals and with principles of sound rate making. I'm going to elaborate on that. So, Washington Gas asked to completely break the link between revenues and sales. The problem is that that sets perverse incentives. The District of Columbia has a commitment to zero emissions, greenhouse gas emissions by 2045. As a result, we must end the sale of methane gas in about 20 years, and we should all expect the path of sales to decline. if a company has no financial consequences when it's faced with a declining path of sales, it sees huge incentives to misinvest dollars. And so this is a perverse problem where if this was approved, we would likely see further investments in pipe systems that we should only allow to be invested in for soundness and safety of decommissioning the system, safely over time. But if the company, basically has its revenue flat regardless of the sales, it wants to invest in pipes because that's what's good for its revenues. So that's basically a huge problem. Even worse, it has nothing to do with sound principles of rate making, because basically the company faces much reduced variability in revenues because they're basically decoupled from sales. So why are they earning an equity premium? They have basically no risk anymore, but they're going to you and asking for a weighted cost of capital that includes a hefty equity premium. But why? There's no risk for them anymore. So for those two reasons, that part should be rejected. Then I'm moving on to the second point. The Commission should reject the so-called climate action recovery tariff. To put it bluntly, this has nothing to do with climate action and all to do with funding infrastructure and investments that would actually increase the sale of natural gas, such as compressed natural gas fueling stations or infrastructure that enables the sale of hydrogen, which in 99% of the hydrogen that you would have in all cases, it comes from fossil fuels. Hydrogen is a fossil fuel-based product in almost all current applications. And so as a result, if we burn more natural gas in these infrastructures that they want to recover money for, we would increase emissions in the District of Columbia, not reduce them. And so this brings me to the point that basically there is an open docket in which the Commission has asked for input on how to structure its analytical approach to decision-making related to the district's climate commitments. As far as I remember, there was a stakeholder working group that produced a report. My understanding is that the Commission hasn't actually acted on these ideas in that working group, such as what cost-benefit analysis should be used, et cetera. I may have missed it, but had there been any proper cost-benefit analysis done, I think we all would have seen that these investments would never pass any cost-benefit analysis. These are super expensive programs. Like hydrogen is like one of the most expensive ways to make use of energy, and these fueling stations are super expensive. They're not reaping any benefit, and I think the key question is whether you can even make a determination on this stuff without the principles that I think you had asked for a couple of years ago, and to my understanding are still sort of outstanding a response. And that brings me to the third point, that the overall rate case is one that is extremely hefty for a company that's performed really poorly. There are thousands of leaks. There is tremendously poor customer service where people were basically, in call centers never getting answers. So as a result, I think these two programs should be disapproved, and the rate case in itself has no merit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. If you could, and this is a note for everybody, but if you have printed copies of your testimony, please make sure you give them to the secretary. Thank you.
Julia Novi.
Good evening. My name is Julia Novi, and I live in Tenleytown. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Interfaith Power and Light, an organization through which congregations of many traditions are working together to respond to climate change. I also speak as someone in my 20s for whom it is not an academic question whether or not our city does our part to preserve a livable climate. Maybe older people take our world's habitability for granted, but those of us born above 350 parts per million understand that being able to live here is a sacred gift that is by no means guaranteed to us. Commissioners, I strongly oppose the massive rate increase proposed by Washington Gas. It is an insult to all of us who hope to continue to live, breathe, and thrive here to force DC residents to foot the bill for more investment in using fossil fuels. And it is particularly insulting to use deceptive wording to try to make this rate hike on dirty fuels sound like something else. What some call natural gas is a natural carbon sink when we leave it underground. Fracking it and burning it, as Washington Gas wants us to keep doing forever, isn't natural at all. And above ground, methane acts as a powerful heat-trapping gas. The word natural cannot conceal the fact that there simply is no scenario in which the district can meet our climate goals while so many of our buildings continue to burn methane gas. Washington Gas's DC Climate Business Plan purports to prioritize preserving customer choice, empowering all energy consumers in the district to select an energy source most suited to their needs. However, trapping DC residents in underwriting gas infrastructure, especially the half of us who rent our homes, doesn't empower anyone to make choices. And our collective need for a livable climate is not being suited at all. This may be a Washington Gas business plan, but it is not a climate anything. And so long as gas is still running and leaking in the pipes beneath our streets, it is harming all of us. Everywhere gas is, gas leaks. Last year, over a dozen congregations walked their neighborhoods with a methane detector, finding 389 leaks across all 8 wards, 14 of which were at or over the methane concentration at which an explosion is possible. Indoors, cooking over a gas-burning stove exposes everyone we live with to dangerous air pollution. This is personal for me. My boyfriend consistently gets headaches when using his apartment's gas stove. It scares me, especially because I see how limited his options are as a renter to make the changes necessary to protect his health in his own home. Gas also leaks from furnaces and water heaters. Just last week, carbon monoxide leaks from gas boilers forced Burroughs Elementary School to close for 2 days. Washington Gas is calling for a guaranteed amount of revenue, even as DC residents are purchasing and burning less of the gas they're selling, and are calling this a climate progress adjustment fee, even as it actually disincentivizes real climate progress and imposes the health, safety, and financial burden disproportionately on those least able to switch away from gas appliances, which is the opposite of progressive. Most brazen of all, though, is a proposal to take fossil fuel methane gas, mix in small amounts of hydrogen or landfill gas, rebrand this extra pricey methane with a climate action recovery tariff, and then charge DC residents millions of dollars for it. Describing any of this as climate action takes a lot of chutzpah, as my people say. Real climate action for the district calls for us to begin an equitable transition off gas entirely and a plan to fully electrify our city. Speaking personally, I feel that the fact that our planet evolved to support human life is such a miracle, one that took millennia to unfold. I can only describe it as a sacrilege to continue lighting the miraculous and limited resources that support human life on fire. Real climate action must mean protecting the sacred blessings of our natural world, not burning them. Washington Gas cannot cover over their determination to perpetuate their combustion business with words like natural, climate action, or climate progress. I and all DC residents should have a livable climate, breathable air, affordable power, and be able to cook dinner without getting headaches or asthma attacks. None of that should be a luxury. This is a dangerous and wrong-headed proposal from Washington Gas. I call on you, as commissioners, as DC residents, and as humans, to say no. Thank you for your time.
Jamani Overby.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Jamani Overby, and I'm the District of Columbia Conservation Advocate for Nature Forward, formerly known as Audubon Naturalist Society. For 125 years, Nature Forward has inspired people to enjoy, learn about, and protect nature. Our conservation priorities are human health and access to nature, biodiversity and habitat, fighting the climate crisis, and sustainable land use. The urgency of the climate crisis is evident across our country today, And that urgency underscores the importance of hearings like this one that we are gathered here today. Washington Gas wants to charge DC residents for false solutions that keep DC locked into fossil fuels. Washington Gas is seeking what it calls Climate Action Recovery Tariff, which would charge DC residents millions of dollars for continued reliance on methane gas instead of clean energy. The CART would pay for mixing frack gas with small amounts of hydrogen and gas from sources like landfills and animal manure from factory farms. Burning methane gas, whether fracked or not, emits pollutants linked to heightened respiratory symptoms, asthma attacks, and hospital admissions. Children living in households with gas appliances are 42% more likely to have asthma. Burning methane gas, whether fracked or not, releases carbon dioxide and contributes to climate change. When methane leaks directly into the atmosphere from pipeline leaks, it is more than 80 times more powerful as global warming agent than carbon dioxide. Gas from animal manure, landfills, and hydrogen is not a realistic solution to climate pollution from gas utilities. The greenwashing designed to keep us hooked on fossil fuels and padding of utility company profits while doing nothing about the climate pollution is a problem. The proposed rate increase is simply funding Washington Gas's plans to charge DC residents money for unhealthy energy infrastructure. Washington Gas is seeking approval to charge DC residents $672 million from 2024 to 2028 to replace gas pipes. Average cost of DC's approximately 700,000 residents, the cost approximately $1,000 per person. DC residents should not be burdened with this multi-million-dollar cost of funding this infrastructure. Instead, DC should invest in transitioning to clean energy from electricity, which saves money, enhances indoor air quality, and improves public health, as well as reduces climate pollution. Mayor Bowser's Clean Energy DC plan states that the district will end fossil fuel combustion by 2025, and last year, DC Council codified this climate commitment into law. Along with the financial impact, especially on low to moderate income families, this proposed rate hike is in direct opposition to the city's renewable energy goals. And supporting this increase will lock us into a legacy of dirty fossil fuels, making it impossible to meet our goals for this legislation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
James Dougherty. James Dougherty. Joyce Robinson Paul. Joyce Robinson Paul. Adawan Holmes. Adawan Holmes. D. Fox.
Hello, Chairman Thompson and the board. I am honored to be speaking to you all today. I know you've gotten a lot of statistics from a lot of people, so I'm going to tell a very personal testimony of what I experienced. My name's Dee Fox, and I live in Ward 5. At one point last summer, my condo and condo building smelled like gasoline. After a really difficult process and finally finding a plumber came to my house after many calls to the Washington Gas Company, who were not of much assistance. A plumber came to my house that had over 20 years experience, and he found gas leaks in my condo that the Washington Gas Company did not find, and he found a cracked exhaust pipe at my on-demand hot water heater with black soot across the water heater and on the pipe and on the ceiling. And he looked at me and said, I should be dead. So I am here today by the grace of God and my higher power. I should not be here. And I'm here today to tell you my story that was very harrowing about the negligence that I experienced as a Washington Gas customer. This is the first time I've shared my story publicly. I'm very scared because during my process with the Washington Gas Company, I called them so many times. I can't even tell you how many times I called them. And at a certain point, it felt retaliatory. So there was a point where I had called upwards to 10 times. And one evening, there was a knock on my door. It was the fire department. They had 2 trucks outside and 5 fire department men dressed in fire department gear with their, I don't even know, some tool. And they came around my unit and said, everything's fine, stop calling the gas company. They went to my condo mates who were all there, shamed me in front of my condo mates and said, your building's fine. You don't have a gas issue, even though we all smelled gas in the building. It was a horrible experience. So at that point, then my condo mates said, drop it, you need to drop it. Anyways, I had enough wherewithal. I'm also a landlord. I've worked in shelter housing programs. I've managed apartment complexes. I've done very big projects and overhaul things. I've never dealt with repairing gas pipes. And let me tell you, it is the hardest project you can ever have in a building. It took years off my life. I'm still here, but it took years off of my life. What I learned through that process is the dangers of gas. I moved into a house many years ago, about 20 years ago. I installed the gas line. I put in a gas stove. I believed cooking with gas was better, more affordable. I have learned through this process of the physical issues caused by gas and carbon monoxide and the recovery process from that and the negligence from a public utility company. I would call my family back home and they say, didn't you call the gas company? I have family members who work for the gas company in Indiana, long careers at the energy companies. It was a prideful job that they had. And my family could not understand, why aren't these people helping you? But I was very lucky to find a man, a wonderful plumber, Mike Orahowski, who was an angel. And he, $40,000 later, fixed every line in my building, every nook and cranny, and he took care of it. And I used it out of my own pocket. I took out the gas line and put an induction stove in, and I'm proud to say that I made a building safe in DC for 5 people. The gas company didn't do that, I did that. And I would also like to say, on my street, there have been 2 fires in other buildings, and I think due to negligence of bad flips. One thing we found out in our flip was, among many issues that caused the gas leaks, the developers had flipped the building very quickly and they used the wrong Teflon tape for the pipes. It should have been gas Teflon, but they did a fast job, and there's not a lot of oversight around DPR things. I learned that as well. And so, it was very negligent from beginning to end. And I have learned that it is very dangerous. Gas is not neutral. It almost killed me. And I dare to think of all the people in the communities, in our community, that have no idea and don't have the wherewithal to address this. It was every day of my life for 5 months addressing this issue, fighting to get it taken care of. So gas is not neutral. It is dangerous. And we deserve something better in DC. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments in your story.
Jean Stewart.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Jean Stewart, and I'm a senior and 53-year resident of Ward 1. And my rental apartment is in a building fueled by methane gas. My personal concerns are first about the financial impact this very large rate increase in our gas-powered building will have on my and my neighbors' rents. I'm retired and on a semi-fixed income, so this would be a tremendous financial blow for me. I have other neighbors who are retired, as well as young families that would also have trouble paying much higher rents. Second, our gas stoves are not vented, so we are fully exposed to the indoor air pollution coming from burning methane gas from our stoves, a particular health hazard for our young children and for our older neighbors who may have asthma or other pulmonary and cardiovascular diseases. The scientific research about the health hazards of burning methane gas indoors are now indisputable. Newer research shows that our gas stoves leak gas even when not in use. Unburned gas also contains, besides methane, noxious substances including benzene, which is a carcinogen. Fracked gas is also hazardous to more than our indoor air. You have heard about the volunteer effort of detecting outdoor gas leaks through many of our neighborhoods. And the biggest gas leaks in my neighborhood were in front of the Harris Teeter and St. Augustine's Catholic Church. Little scary. But the answer to these leaks is not the ultimately $4.5 billion needed to fully replace the pipelines. This is because of the looming climate crisis and what continued dependence on fossil fuels like methane is doing to everybody's well-being. Gas is not the fuel of the future, but of the past. Heavy financial investment in methane gas is terribly costly and will, in the not-too-distant future, leave us with stranded assets like a shiny new network of gas pipelines that we will continue to pay dearly for, even as we all convert to clean and cheaper electricity. You have already heard from many tonight on the dollar amounts the requested rate increase will cost us and the declining costs of shifting to cleaner and more renewable sources of energy. Please also consider the costs to our city of a fossil fuel accelerated climate crisis, like infrastructure damage from floods, health and life costs from increasing heat waves, and damages from more frequent and powerful storms knocking our trees down onto homes, cars, and sometimes people. Thank you for giving me the chance to testify to my opposition to Washington Gas Light's requested rate increase.
Sir, that ends our list of walk-in.
Are there any other additional people in the audience who did not sign up but wish to offer any testimony or comments in this matter? Okay. If there is anyone joining the community hearing via WebEx and wishes to speak, please click on the raise hand icon so that you can be unmuted when you are called upon. Those calling into the community hearing who wish to speak, please press *6 to raise your hand.
Sir?
Sorry, *3. Please identify yourself and any organization that you represent before beginning your testimony.
The next speaker will be Annalise Bruner. Annalise
Hi.
Bruner.
Hello. I am a homeowner and a long-term resident of Ward 4, and I just wanted to comment on a couple of misperceptions that are being put forward by the comments. I'm not weighing in on the rate case because I don't think that I'm qualified to talk about it at this moment. I'm not prepared. But I did hear a couple of things that are just absolutely misleading. First of all, I do wonder how many people realize that electricity is generated by the burning of natural gas. So the notion, so it becomes a double cost. The notion that electrification is going to be so much cheaper, I don't know how that notion took hold, but we need to understand that a bit more clearly, I think, rather than just throwing out electric is cheaper, electric is cheaper, electric is cheaper. That's number one. Number two, I do also have to understand from these comments that are going out into the public kind of like unchallenged, how can people who think that we're going to suddenly change over all infrastructure from gas to electric, believe that we are going to be able to do that, and that won't lead to rate cases by Pepco to increase their rates. It's a bit mind-boggling to sit here as a member of the public trying to grasp all of the concerns that are being expressed. And I hear the concerns, and I too am a homeowner. But I want to understand, how can we make sure that we're having factual discussions based on actuality, not just belief system? That's my comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to call on the user with the digits 443900. Again, those digits are 443900. The net. Hello? Hi, can you please state your name?
I'm not making it exact. I'm just saying everything you should know for being a nurse.
Sir, if it's okay, we're just going to scroll through the list because we have no raised hands,
Okay.
just to ensure we don't miss anyone. Elizabeth Beltran, would you like to speak? Joel Novi, would you like to speak? Nair Tanner, would you like to speak?
It's Nia Tanner, and no, I'm just observing. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Jefferson.
No.
Sorry. And Rachel B.
I'm okay, thank you.
Thank you. That ends the list, sir.
Well, I want to say thank you so much today for everybody's comments, those who appeared in person, and the person who called in. If you wish to file written comments or statements, they can be filed until February 13th, 2023 by sending in to Brenda Westbrook Sedgwick, the Commission Secretary of the Public Service Commission. Her email address, or the email address you should submit comments to, is psc-commissionsecretary@dc.gov. For further information, WGL's application and all subsequent filings in a proceeding can be found and reviewed online at the Commission's website at www.dcpsc.org. Once at the website, open the eDocket tab, click on Search Database, and input FC1169. Copies of the transcript of this community hearing will be available in the formal case number 1169 docket. Additionally, I would just state that we have hearings scheduled for tomorrow and Thursday as well. So for those who do not get a chance to submit testimony today and so feel moved to do so in a future date, we do have future hearings on tomorrow and Thursday. At this time, this concludes tonight's hearing, and thank you for everybody for participating. Thank you.